Welcome to the Money Hour with Tina Mitchell. Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Gateway Mortgage Group, LLC. The views expressed by the speakers on the following program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Gateway Mortgage Group, LLC, nor are they necessarily endorsed by Gateway Mortgage Group, LLC. Now, in the studio, local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, April 22nd show. I am your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. It's a great day to talk money. That's why I'm here with you and what the show is all about, how to make money, save money, and build a better quality of life for you and your family. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. I'm here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that I have in studio today. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And my lineup for today's show, Greg Nunn with None Better Tax Resolution. It is after the April filing date for my tax return. Now what do I do? We'll answer that today with Greg. Also in studio, I have Francine Schneider with RE/MAX Integrity, today's real estate market, everything that's happening in our local market here in Seattle. And last guest in studio, Vivian Peterson and Debbie Yeager with Windermere Real Estate Shoreline, flipping homes in the Seattle market. Great information, great guest in studio. For more information on any topics discussed, please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And to start out the show today, a little money chat.
Money.
Seattle employment, the effect on real estate prices and the challenges this creates for homeowners wanting to sell and move up. Solutions to hold, buy, then sell. The top real estate forecast sees Seattle remaining amongst the most desirable markets because of tech and population growth. With the lack of inventory, it is challenging for buyers, and I do not see the market slowing down or inventory coming available in the near future. Once interest rates increase, and they will, the inventory challenges will get even greater as sellers are currently at a high 3 to low 4% interest rates, will not want to sell and buy a new home with interest rates increasing possibly, who knows, 8%. Why would they? With the equity in their home from the rapid appreciation, a lot of homeowners will access their equity, remodel their home, and stay put with the low interest rate that they currently have. So on top of that, foreign buyers are moving their cash into Seattle instead of purchasing homes in Vancouver after the 15% foreign investor tax was introduced in Metro Vancouver. The employment opportunities are also not slowing down. In the last 10 years, the Seattle tech scene has changed quite dramatically. In 1990s and the early 2000s, the only gigantic software companies in town were Microsoft and Amazon, and for a time, it even become common knowledge that most Seattle-based startups had only two viable exit strategies: go public or get acquired by Microsoft. Now, in the last 10 years, we've seen sea change in this dynamic in Seattle caused by two forces. The first part of the change has been the rise in the new breed of large Seattle-based tech companies that are still smaller than the two local titans, the Microsoft and Amazon, yet large enough to fill out the middle tier. Now, the second force has been the increasing appearance of Silicon Valley engineering offices in Seattle metro area. Google was the biggest and first major Silicon Valley offices to open engineering offices here in Seattle. And then a decade after Google set up shop in the city, Seattle has seen an explosion of Silicon Valley companies setting up their second engineering offices in Seattle. And this is now home engineering offices for Google, Facebook, Apple, Twitter, Salesforce, eBay, Dropbox, Uber, YouTube, and many others. So there have also been companies from the Bay Area in the recent that are moving their companies to Seattle because of California's state income and payroll taxes. So Seattle is becoming the next San Francisco. But to put things into perspective, Seattle home prices are where San Francisco home prices were about 15 years ago. That is crazy. Gives you an idea of the tremendous growth that we still have coming here in the Seattle market. So the biggest challenge for move-up buyers is not being able to go contingent on their home selling. With the lack of inventory, is the lack of sellers, and they are making the rules out on the market. So sellers do not want to take the risk of a buyer's home not selling and having to put their home back on the market, so they are not accepting contingent offers. So what I wanted to share with you today during Money Chat is for my sellers out there to provide some solutions on how to buy, hold, and then sell. So first, you can look at the options of taking out a bridge loan, which is basically a HELOC on your current home to use for down payment on your new home. Purchase your new home without having to go contingent and then pay off the HELOC when your home sells. Another option you might look at is taking a loan out against your 401k. You can pay that back to yourself. You need to actually talk to your financial planner and see how that works. But you should be able to borrow against it, pay it back within a period of time after your home sells. Another option is take out a smaller mortgage on your new home, lower than what you were originally anticipating if you had sold your home first and were using those net proceeds. And then once your home sells, do a one-time reamortization on your current, from the proceeds from your current home. This is when you make a large principal payment and your bank will then reamortize the current payment to reflect the new balance that's owed. Now, if any of these solutions are not appealing to you, you can sell your current home first, then purchase a new home and find temporary housing. I don't know, maybe it might be fun to hang out with a family member, maybe be a little vacation time. So those are really what your options are to be successful in this market and not have to go contingent. Any questions that you have on solutions, I've got great real estate professionals in studio, and also I am your expert in the mortgage arena and can help and assist to put a strategy and a plan together for you. Coming up next in the Money Hour, it is after the April filing date for tax return. Now, what do? I have Greg Nunn, None Better Tax Resolution, right here on 1150 AM, KKNW after this short break.
Are you behind in filing your tax returns? Does the IRS claim you owe them money, but you can't pay? Are you getting nasty grams from the IRS? Are you losing sleep? Please know your tax problems can be solved. Work locally and actually meet the person that'll help you with your tax problems and not some faceless national firm. Call None Better Tax Resolution today at 1-844-SOS-1040 for a free confidential consultation. Again, call 844-SOS-1040 today and start fixing your tax problems so you can sleep peacefully.
Have you been in your home for more than 30 years and are now thinking of downsizing? Francine Schneider with RE/MAX Integrity has assisted many couples just like you and helped them make this hard move going from a large home to a more manageable square footage. Francine has a sincere commitment to making the real estate process as smooth as possible, guiding you through this perhaps very difficult next phase of your life. She also has a great strategy for selling a first-time on the market home. To learn more about Francine Schneider's real estate process and system, you can reach her at 425-890-0865 or by email at francine@schneiderestate.com.
Hi, I'm Francine Schneider. Give me a call at 425-890-0865 if you have difficulty downsizing or have an aging parent who needs help with their move. I'll be your senior real estate specialist and trusted advisor.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM, KKNW, the Saturday, April 22nd show. I'm here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and one show at a time. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but you can call into the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com to ask any questions of the guests that I have in studio. And right now, I have Greg Nunn with None Better Tax Resolution. It's after the filing time, April file date, and your tax returns. What is the next step? What do you need to do? Greg Nunn, a little bit about Greg. Thanks for coming back in studio. Almost forgot to say thanks, Greg, for joining me again.
Well, thank you for having me again.
A little bit about Greg. Gregory Nunn is founder and principal of None Better Tax Resolution in Redmond, Washington. The first firm, a tax resolution specialist in Washington State. His passion is helping people people that find themselves in a predicament with the IRS due to failing of file tax returns and or not paying what the IRS claims they owe. He represents these troubled taxpayers vigorously before the IRS. His practice also provides tax preparation and tax planning for the individual and business. Gregory is a licensed CPA in the state of Washington and been in the industry for over 20 years, 30 years. Whoops, I've been in the industry over 20 years. He is a member of the American Society of Tax Problem Solvers, the premier association of professional help troubled taxpayers. He has received the top Practitioner Award for the American Society of Tax Problem Solvers, and he is also a certified tax resolution specialist. Greg has published a book titled Solve Your Tax Problems Now. And I always like to just disclose, Greg does help troubled taxpayers out there that find themselves in a predicament and need some assistance, but he also helps people that do not have tax issues. So anybody that needs tax assistance, Greg, I personally speak for myself because he is my everything go-to tax guy. So Greg, thanks again for coming in, and great to have a conversation about what happens after the filing date and the tax return. So if you filed your tax returns, what should you do with them?
Well, first, I hope everyone out there has filed, and if
I
you
hope
have
so
not
too.
filed, that you filed an extension. Otherwise, you're in for a rude awakening when you pay your taxes. It's interesting. The first thing that we should do now that we filed our taxes is to think about them some more. Think about what might be in store for 2017. Review your tax return and understand what's in there. A lot of people, and I speak from experience watching some clients, they really don't look at what's in their tax return or really fully understand it. Mm-hmm. It's a great thing to know, so you know what dynamics might be in there as they contribute to your tax liability. And if you have a tax preparer, have them review that return with you, so they can explain it to you, so you know what's going on. And if you don't have someone, could you do it yourself, or you use one of the online programs? Go visit a CPA or an enrolled agent in EA and just have them explain what's in the tax return. One caveat: if you go see a professional, to have them provide you an update or disclosure of what's in your tax return, so you understand it. Remember, it's a professional service, and do expect to pay a fee.
Of course. And just like mortgage documents, I mean, you're going through and taking a look at your mortgage documents. You want to take a look at your tax documents. So, Greg, you should know about what is in your tax return. So what are the important pieces?
Some of the important things in there is to understand how your income that you have and the type of income, how that contributes to your tax liability. Also, to understand how your itemized deductions contribute to what you might owe, and tax credits. And so many of these things are so extremely ridiculously complicated, because with computers these days, the Congress seems like they want to make all these formulas very complicated and phase out rules and phase in rules, and no one rules. So you got to take a look at what your particular situation is.
And I would imagine, too, you can get some strategy and advice on maybe what you could do differently next year to make it more favorable for you.
It is. I mean, now's really the time to plan for that.
Sure.
So many of us, we do our tax return and we're shocked, either, wow, what happened, or I owe a lot of money, or I got a huge refund. Hey, figure it out while you're going through the year. That's a lot easier that way.
So let's talk about that. Huge refund, or not so good, you owe a huge amount to the IRS.
Yeah, it's interesting how sometimes it's just a psychological dynamic. Some people like seeing that big refund coming at the end of the year. Others are exactly the opposite, that if they see they have a big refund, they are infuriated because they gave the government too much money of theirs to hold on to. You
exactly.
got it. So if you are in either one of those situations and you really want to modify what your refund is or what you have to pay for employees, primarily it's all dictated by that W-4 that we fill out, and most companies will ask you to fill it out every year. And that dictates what's going to be withheld from your paycheck. And that is the one that you really want to pay close attention to try to get it as close as to what you think your tax liability will be for the year.
Yeah. Well, you know what I do with my clients in mortgages, especially for first-time home buyers, is send them back to you and coach on how they can amend that W-4 so that they can realize that tax benefit on a monthly basis.
Absolutely.
Not like the government collect interest on money.
Right.
Now, for self-employed, all of us that are self-employed or commission, a little bit more challenging to kind of figure out where that sweet spot is in breaking even. And really, that's the ideal, I think, is just to break even. Don't owe money, and definitely don't let the government hold on to it. So anything else to explain on the W-4?
Remember, in case you aren't familiar with it, the W-4 is that thing that says, single 0 or married 2 or...
And what is the maximum you can put on there without having any dependents?
Seriously, you can fill out a W-4 that claims that you don't want any tax withheld and you're tax exempt. I do not recommend that. But typically, if you're the goal of the W-4 is to try to simulate the idea of how many dependents you have. So if it's husband, wife, and 2 kids, married 4, it's trying to simulate that, but it's not always real effective in doing that.
But a lot of times, aren't they increasing those, from what they have for dependents because they've got so many opportunities to write off, and that way they can get that money?
Exactly right.
And that's kind of what you do, is you
no
go
one's
through
the same.
and, yes.
You might be someone that has an immense amount of deductions, like mortgage interest or property taxes, and you're getting this huge tax benefit that really you'd want to raise the amount of your exemptions on your W-4 so you can retain that income during the year. Others, it could be the other way around. You're making really good money, but you have very few deductions.
Yeah.
And so
go buy real estate.
I think that's in.
I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you that later. Okay. Well,
how did you know that?
So let's go to tax professional, Greg. What is the importance of hiring someone like you to take care of your taxes?
I think it's one of 2 things. One, if doing it on an annual basis, I think, is the right thing for some people, not for everybody. For others, using the online programs, I think, is sufficient. But periodically, just sit down with a tax professional.
Sure.
Because most of the time when we're doing the programs on the internet, not to degrade them in any way, but they're asking questions, and it's an interviewing process, and sometimes we don't really understand what that question's asking of us. Because I've seen more than one occasion where people do some pretty funny things in their tax return because they just didn't understand the question.
Sure.
No fault of their own.
Yeah. So, Greg, let's talk about investments. How do those play in?
Oh, you mean
with
like
your
our
taxes?
retirement accounts and that kind of thing. And that's another reason why to take a look at things today. So many of us have opportunities to save, but we don't save because we want the money today. However, it's like anything, man. You start putting that little $100 aside every month or $200 aside. Pretty soon, you just adjust your living standards to what you have left, and then, man, before you know it, you have a huge nest egg.
Yeah.
And the younger you are, the sooner you should start, because as you get to be my age, it's a little more difficult to accumulate all that wealth that we need to have when we retire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Greg, let's get back to real estate. We have real estate professionals in studio. My regular listeners and everyone here knows that full-time I do mortgages, and that's my expertise. So, there's a lot of good reasons to buy real estate, but let's go from a tax perspective.
From a tax perspective, the best reason to buy real estate, of course, are those deductions that we are going to get from that mortgage interest and the property taxes. The tax code, really, the way it's written right now, is most advantageous for the average person to have real estate because it's really trying to motivate people to buy property. It's always the biggest driver in our economy. When construction is happening, economy is good. When houses are selling, economy is good. When real estate prices are going up, economy is good. So those are all really awesome reasons to own real estate, is primarily for the tax benefit of it.
Yeah. Now, as first-time home buyers, they do need to be careful to make sure they're looking at their options on whether they're filing standard.
They do, yes.
Most of the time, if you can afford to buy, it's probably not going to make, but you've got to kind of balance, weigh that out to see what the true benefit is,
you
correct?
You do have to know what that true benefit is. Sometimes I'm asked, hey, Greg, when should I buy my house? What should I do? First of all, buy it when you can afford it. And the second part is try to buy it as early in the year as you can if you're trying to maximize your tax benefits that year.
Yep.
Because if you buy it later in the year, your tax benefits may be nil. However, if that's the time you're able to afford to buy, don't wait. Just get the property.
Makes
get
sense.
that house.
Especially with interest rates, appreciation, and all of
Absolutely.
that. And let's hope the interest credit doesn't go away. But I'm heading to D.C. on some of this stuff that's
Really?
in legislation. So interesting stuff happening. When is we just answered that the best time to buy is going to be at the beginning of the year, except for disclosure, as if it makes sense for you, you can do something, get in, because we don't know what's going to happen with interest rates.
Yep.
What is the standard deduction and how much is it for 2017?
Okay, one thing to think about when you're going through your tax return, you're either going to have the standard deduction or you're going to have itemized deductions, whichever is the higher of the two. The standard deduction, everybody gets no matter what itemized deductions you have, like, mortgage interest, property taxes, charitable contributions, maybe some medical expenses or something of that nature. So a person filing married jointly automatically gets a $12,700 deduction for the standard deduction. Single is half that, $6,350. So you have that no matter what. And so that's something you can look at as you're planning for your tax year, is see what that standard deduction is, and then see what kind of itemized deductions you have that might lift you up above that standard deduction and what you can plan for during the year. And maybe it's just something small where you can load a lot of deductions into one year because you're just kind of on the margin.
Sure.
And then not as many as in the next year.
Got it.
Especially charitable. That's a good one you can control.
Yes. So, Greg, what about tax brackets in the various tax brackets?
Oh, tax brackets. We all love those. Most of us are going to be somewhere between 10% and 33%. 39.6%.
I was going to say,
I'm sorry. There's one up there a little bit higher. I guess I just don't look at it because I'm not there. So anyway, it can. The thing is, these tax brackets, again, that's where tax planning can come in. You might be right on the fringe of moving some of your income in the next higher tax bracket, and then maybe there's some things you can do so that doesn't happen.
Sure.
So instead of something being taxed at 33%, maybe you can keep it in the 28% tax bracket. So there you've saved 5%. Think about that. 5% of 10,000.
Yeah.
That's a nice dinner at, Daniel's Broiler or something.
Yeah. So, Greg, in wrapping up, how do you determine what your tax rate is?
I think this is one of the most important things to understand in your tax return. And that is you have what's called the marginal rate, which are the different tax brackets. You're going to have part of your income taxed at 10%, some at 15%, some at 25%. And so the marginal rate is the highest tax bracket you're being taxed in. But your effective rate is looking at the total tax that you've paid and divide it by your total income. It's going to be a whole different percentage. Depending upon your income and so forth, it could be 5 to 10% less than what your actual marginal tax bracket rate is.
Got it.
And it's a great thing to know because then again, if you're looking at deductions, you can go, well, for every $100, I can see that I can save 20%. Well, that might make you, again, think about what you could do in getting some deductions.
Yes. And I was told on the real estate side, too, it's important to know that the interest is based on the last income tax bracket that you're, so a lot of consumers, a lot of homeowners don't know that it's the last dollars earned tax bracket. So if you pay $1 in that other one, you're going to get the interest right off on that 33 versus the 25. So
correct.
Makes a huge difference. Greg, thank you again, as always, for coming into the studio. It's always a pleasure.
I sure appreciate being here, and I hope it helps some people to hear what I had to say today.
I'm sure it does. It does, because we always have listeners call and ask for you. So I'll look forward to having you back, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Coming up next on the Money Hour, what's happening in today's real estate market? Francine Schneider with RE/MAX Integrity right here on 1150 AM KKNW after the short break.
Are you behind in filing your tax returns? Does the IRS claim you owe them money, but you can't pay? Are you getting nasty grams from the IRS? Are you losing sleep? Please know your tax problems can be solved. Work locally and actually meet the person that'll help you with your tax problems and not some faceless national firm. Call None Better Tax Resolution today at 1-844-SOS-1040 for a free confidential consultation. Again, call 844-SOS-1040 today and start fixing your tax problems so you can sleep peacefully.
Have you been in your home for more than 30 years and are now thinking of downsizing? Francine Schneider with RE/MAX Integrity has assisted many couples just like you and helped them make this hard move going from a large home to a more manageable square footage. Francine has a sincere commitment to making the real estate process as smooth as possible, guiding you through this perhaps very difficult next phase of your life. She also has a great strategy for selling a first-time on the market home. To learn more about Francine Schneider's real estate process and system, you can reach her at 425-890-0865 or by email at francine@schneiderestate.com.
Hi, I'm Francine Schneider. Give me a call at 425-890-0865 if you have difficulty downsizing or have an aging parent who needs help with their move. I'll be your senior real estate specialist and trusted advisor.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Well, welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, April 22nd. I bring into studio each week the best of the best experts in every area regarding money, and that's what I'm here, and that's what you'll learn all about, what's happening in today's economy. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. To chat with the guests that I have in studio, you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or online at themoneyhour.com. And in studio right now, Francine Schneider with RE/MAX Integrity, today's real estate market. Francine, thank you so much for joining me for the first time.
Thanks for inviting me, Tina.
Of course. And a little bit about Francine. Francine is from Montreal, lived 2 years in Arizona and 17 years in Vancouver, British Columbia, before moving to Seattle in 2008. She has an interior design background and owned and staging professional organization company for World Tours between the age of 20 and 35 in Canada. Francine has a master's in educational technology and bachelor's in linguistics. She successfully got these degrees between the main careers in interior design and real estate. Francine thought she wanted to change and teach, but when she finished her master's degree, she went back to her passion, which was design and real estate. When Francine moved to the United States in 2008, she took 2 years to study Washington's market. In 2010, she was licensed in the U.S. and joined John L. Scott. Because of her Canadian affiliation and referral business in 2013, she decided to join RE/MAX, which is the #1 real estate company in Canada and many countries in Europe. A few of Francine's designations are certified luxury home marketing and new construction specialist, certified in negotiation, and senior real estate specialist. When people ask Francine what she does, her response is, I sell my time and knowledge and help my clients buy and sell properties. I teach them the process and complex transactions of real estate. Her personal passion is riding, yes, her Harley Davidson with her husband. Francine, again, thank you so much. And excited about our conversation to talk a little bit about real estate and what's happening in the market. First, what is the best for buyers, do you think, in today's market, if whether resale or new construction?
Few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, I would have tell you that in this frenzy market where it's really hard to get a home because everybody's bidding over listing price and it's not first come, first serve, it would have been to go with new constructions. But in the last a month or so, maybe a little bit more, maybe 2 months, new constructions builders now are taking offers, which is really hard. Like, for instance, I had few buyers who could not get a resale because they were solid on paper but not on cash, so they could not bid more than the listing price. They could not waive the appraisal, for instance.
Waive the finance contingency.
Exactly. That was really hard. And I said, well, I'll go to new constructions. There's a lot of good development. There's a lot of good builders around. And it's first come, first serve. They release a home. You go, you write an express form, and the house is yours. Well, to my surprise, that was different. So the particular buyers that I sent, the home that was priced for $5,985, for instance. They released the home on a Wednesday, and they were taking offers all week. And the builder would decide on Monday who would get the home, and the house went for $650. So from that moment home, the next release would start at 650.
Yes.
And then the same process. They would release the home on Wednesday. They would wait a week. I'm not going to name the name of the builder, but I was a little bit upset about that. But it's kind of what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I've always wondered in new construction why they don't have that to where, the prices are going up and all this craziness going on. But it sounds like it's kind of moving into the new construction as well.
It's moving.
Yeah, interesting. So, Francine, what about strategy for pricing and listing your home?
My strategy is so different now in the last 6 months.
It's always different. It always
it's really
changes,
different,
yes.
but right now I feel it a little bit more.
Okay.
My strategy was, and I'm trying to stick to that, was like I would like to list a home at the market value.
Okay.
And, and see where the buyers will drive the
price.
listing, the price, and where the market is going to tell us where the market. If you overprice, some people will not even want to see the home because it's overpriced. I don't want to see it. But today, even if you overprice the home a little bit, people will go and see the homes because there's not a lot of home to see.
Yeah.
So they're going to go to see the home, and some of them would even bid for above that price anyway. So I'm still trying to stay at the market value. Of course, now with sellers, it's really hard because now they see the comps around their home and they're like, well, the guy across the street sold for a certain amount of money. I want to start there, even though it's not the market value. So you have to raise those prices a little bit, hoping that that's going to be a little bit frenzy around that particular listing again.
Sure.
So it's harder to have a strategy and sticking to it.
Yeah.
You don't go below that much.
Well, and it's interesting too because there's all of the, the data and helping sellers. If you can, do the reporting of comparing, what the actual list price versus the sell price and what the time was for it to sell. There's some great data out there.
Yes.
And love how you mentioned Zillow. I just went to a workshop talking about different things with the market, and they, the Zillow prices all different, and the comment was, well, Mr. Zillow hasn't visited the home. So
yes, exactly.
I thought that was really cute.
People don't even think about Zillow anymore.
Yeah.
Just like.
So Francine, I know that you have a real passion working with seniors, and there's a lot of seniors that are going through the downsizing. And so what are you doing there? How are you strategizing and helping in that process?
I'm trying to help them understand to let go of the emotion because that's what keeps senior in their home.
Yes.
I have a dear friend client, which she became a friend with the client, but she's kind of close to 9 years old, for instance, and she wants to stay in her home. She doesn't want to go anywhere. And the only thing that keeps her here, it's the memory.
Yes.
And so she feels that it's her cocoon. So it's really hard to remove a senior from their home. Really, really hard. So in order to help them, I put them in contact with great companies that help to take care of all the logistics.
Yes.
Like the moving, packing, labeling, cleaning, and helping them going through this emotion time, which I help a lot as well. I've been raised with elderly because my mother got me when she was 45. So I always had like older parents and older sisters and cousins. And so I've been raised with people who are thinking, generations a little bit behind, like past generation.
Sure.
So, and it's really hard to understand if you haven't lived there. You haven't lived in that generation.
Yes.
So anyway, in order to help them, I'm gonna explain to them that it's okay to feel the way they feel. Yeah. And on top of that, they're not really technology savvy. So one of my clients was 9 years of age, for instance. It was hard for him to go in a computer every time I have a document to send for him to sign on Authentic-Sign. So you got to drive. You got to go there, and you got to make them understand that it's okay for me to, that you're not bothering me because they don't want to call you. But if there's a problem arising, they don't want to tell you because they don't want to bother you too much because they know you're going to have to drive there. So it's another kind of set of clients, but I just adore them.
Yes,
so it's easy for me
great.
to be patient and just drive 5 times a day if I have to.
Yeah.
And help them signing contracts, understanding. They don't all the laws on a contract.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I think just even the typical person, whether you're a senior or not, I mean, there's a lot.
there's
There's a lot of
Even-
stuff.
yeah,
Yes.
even younger.
So, Francine, on home improvement or renovation on homes, maybe preparing for selling, or even as I mentioned earlier, I mean, we might see some people starting to do a little bit more of that when the interest rates go up and maybe staying. But what are some mistakes that sellers are making in the renovation process?
Okay. So I got a little list, and I'm going to tell you what my list is.
Okay.
No prep work. You got to prep everything you do. Bad measurement. Don't think that just a tape measurement will go.
Okay.
You have your measurement. Avoiding permits. A lot of people don't say, "Oh, I'm going to do that
Yes.
myself. It's easy to do." They don't get the permits, but when they sell,
Yeah.
then the problem
And
with
I
the
serve on
King
the lending side. It's not fun.
Yeah, the
Yes.
King County is going to come into it. Ignoring safety requirement at the job sites. You
Okay.
need to be like safe when you get people coming on your. Not setting a realistic budget, because people think that's going to cost like $25,000 to make
Yeah.
renovation their kitchen, and they're going to end up with $50,000.
Yep.
But they're going to be midway. They don't have the money. What do you do?
Sure.
Doing your own demolition. Don't tear down a wall by yourself.
Uh-huh.
Even fixer-upper, sometimes they're going to take a wall down, and they forgot that there was a post that should
Sure.
stay above. So make attention to that. Doing too much demo. Making too much, like instead of just one wall, I'm going to take another one, or maybe you're going to keep going a little bit. Just make your plan. The neglect electrical and heating system, and being to code. If
Okay,
you
sure.
remodel, you have to be to code. And take care also, pay attention to the age of the home. If you get a Victorian home, for instance, well, when you do a renovation, if you put half of it modern, or
Yeah,
it may
so stay within.
it may gonna clash a little bit.
Sure.
And going cheap on your materials.
Yeah.
Somebody would say, "Oh, I'm going to take that. It's going to be cheaper." But at the end of the day, think about resale. If you go cheaper, it's going to maybe break. And I'm not telling you to go to the high-end products, but make sure that your product are warranty. Go to companies that knows what they're talking about,
Yeah.
and some people who's been in the business for a while, and getting good contractor.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Do your homework. Find some reference for your referral for your contractor, and
Yep.
make sure you hire.
It's like anything else, making sure that you have the experts and the advice to make sure that you're not making any mistakes that you can't go back later
no.
and make up for those. What about location, Francine, in this amazing, crazy market that we have? I talked a little bit in Money Chat about the employment. It's just it's unbelievable, the market and where we're at here, and the potential that we have in comparison to other markets. So what's the best place to purchase location here?
Actually, right now, I'm pushing my buyers outside of the east side. I'm going to go to Maple Valley or Bothell, or even Bothell is going like prices are rising, and it's really a lot of people is moving to Bothell because a lot of our clients, most of us, we have a lot of Microsoft, Amazon, T-Mobile, Google, a lot of people in the neighborhood, in the east side. They don't want to travel. They don't want to be stuck in the traffic.
Yes.
So they don't want to move outside of the east side. But it's really hard to get a home in the east side if you're not having a lot of money, cash, to play with it. So it's if I can send them to Carnation, Fall City, Bottle. I know Monroe's a little bit out.
But
in
that
the
market
north,
is doing a lot of crazy things as well. It is interesting to see these markets outside and what they're doing. And so
but
maybe
because people are pushed.
Exactly.
Like Renton Highland.
Yep.
Renton
Yeah.
Highland. You didn't have any bidding war on
Yes.
Renton Highland.
Yeah.
You can get a home on Renton Highland now.
Yeah.
And the new construction is there. The builders are taking over.
Yep.
Newcastle. More
Yep.
and more.
Yep.
So it's really hard unless you go to, as I said, Maple Valley, Kent, Covington, Enumclaw. You get a little room,
Sure.
a little bit there, but the traffic and the
Well, and so, really looking and strategizing and find out what some options are, whether it's carpooling, transit, going into the office at different times to avoid the traffic. So if you want to get into real estate, there's always a solution. It's just finding out what that's going to be for you. So putting escalation clause with offers, are you advising clients to do that? What are you seeing there?
There's so many school of thought about the escalation clause. I just came back from the Battle of Barrister that the real estate
Dang it,
broker
I missed it
together.
this year. I love it. The first year I've missed forever.
That was so good. They were talking about escalation clause, something that I didn't even think about it. And it's just like, yes. Of course, they were advising that it was a bad idea. But everybody's putting an escalation clause because they don't want to, like if you put an escalation clause, you reveal right away what you wanted to pay. So a lot of strategy for a listing broker, and I've seen it, they're just going to remove all the escalation clause and they're going to say, okay, this
Come with
person,
your best.
that's it. But this person said that he wants to pay that number. They're going to go at the top of the number and they're going to offer, counter offer. Okay, you're going to get the home at the top of your offer. And they're going to remove all the escalators. So you can run into that. This is a problem that buyers can run into. However, there is a lot of, realtors that don't work this way and they're just going to look at the escalation clause. But if you have 25 escalation clause, you need to really pay attention of everything, especially the expire date. A lot of people is going to send an escalation a contract, an offer with expiration date, and they're going to say, oh, but keep my offer. It's okay if you keep it until you review and they're not going to change. Well, you have to pay attention not to use this offer as the competing offer.
Of course.
Because the expiration date is, the offer is expired.
Yes.
So by the time the listing broker, the seller is going to receive that competing offer, they don't realize that it's expired. So that's cause a lot of confusion at the end because then there's no competing offer. The price is going to be like. So there's a lot of detail to look when you put an escalation clause.
Yeah.
Make sure that you are prepared as a buyer. Okay, I want to offer all the way to 683 or 700. Well, you have to be sure that maybe that's what you're going to pay.
Of course,
because they're going to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They can play with that.
Of course. And there's a lot of strategy, and that's really what the show is about. And Francine, I had so many more questions I wanted to ask you, but I've got to take us to break. But there's really, the show's about bringing in expert advice, and it's one-on-one, finding out what your specific needs are, what market you're in, what you're willing to do. There's a lot of strategies. You've just got to figure out what the best one is to win. And thank you, Francine, for coming in and sharing your expertise with my listeners. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Coming up next in the Money Hour, flipping homes in the Seattle market. Vivian Peterson and Debbie Yeager with Windermere Real Estate Shoreline right here at 11:50 a.m. KKNW after the short break.
Have you been in your home for more than 30 years and are now thinking of downsizing? Francine Schneider with RE/MAX Integrity has assisted many couples just like you and helped them make this hard move going from a large home to a more manageable square footage. Francine has a sincere commitment to making the real estate process as smooth as possible, guiding you through this perhaps very difficult next phase of your life. She also has a great strategy for selling a first-time on the market home. To learn more about Francine Schneider's real estate process and system, you can reach her at 425-890-0865 or by email at francine@schneiderestate.com.
Hi, I'm Francine Schneider. Give me a call at 425-890-0865 if you have difficulty downsizing or have an aging parent who needs help with their move. I'll be your senior real estate specialist and trusted advisor.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here at 11:50 a.m. KKNW, the Saturday, April 22nd show. Each week, I share expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events in our local economy and how it can affect your money. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com to discuss anything regarding your finances, any expert that you want to get connected to. I have them in studio. Right now, conversation with Vivian Peterson and Debbie Yeager with Windermere Real Estate Shoreline. And we're going to be having a conversation on flipping homes in the Seattle market. Thanks, ladies, for coming in.
Thank you, Tina.
and a little bit about Vivian and Debbie. Vivian, helping people bring fulfillment to their lives is what Vivian loves about the business she's in. She's in the Seattle native with over 20 years of service experience. She has an eye for design and is knowledgeable about real estate market. Her love for the Seattle community is what led her to Windermere Real Estate, where she has helped people find homes they love as well as sell their home with her staging skills. Vivian enjoys being part of people's journeys. And Debbie Yeager, a Western Washington native, Debbie has been involved in a variety of aspects of real estate for more than 32 years. She has investment properties that she manages, flipped houses at a variety of times over the last 10 years, including buying some homes, those of out from the live auctions. She also worked in the mortgage lending business for 10 years. She's a premier associate broker with Windermere and works with both buyers and sellers. And in her off time, she spends time with her kids and enjoys variety of outdoor activities and travels, working and loves working in her garden and traveling. Probably doing a little traveling in the garden, right?
I am. And if I had known that my colleague over here had a Harley, I would have put down that I enjoy my Harley as well.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. And you ride your own too?
I do.
Oh, that is definitely girl power. Vivian, what's wrong with us? Okay, back to business about talking about flipping homes in the Seattle market. So, Vivian, how is the current Seattle market right now?
Well, it depends if you're a buyer or a seller and what price point you're looking at. If you're looking at something that's $1 million to $1.5 million, that's a different market. However, continued low inventory and multiple offers and competing offers is driving the market up. So the Seattle average price right now is about $700,000 for a home.
Yeah, that is crazy. And the inventory you've with the lack of inventory, I think they say King County normally is $9,000 to $10,000 of inventory, or 9,000 to 10,000 homes of inventory, which it's last time I saw it was like 1,500 to 1,800 just in King County. So it's crazy out there. Debbie, how do you decide if a house is a good flip property or not? Because that's a whole different dynamic when we talk about flipping versus holding the home.
Correct. It is. And some people make it sound like it's really glamorous, but it's not. I mean, you really need to know what you're doing. But as far as knowing, whether it's a good flip or not, it's really location and buying. You want to buy in an area where it's a hot area. You want to be right now. Almost everywhere is a hot area, but really you want to be in city, close to transportation. You want to know what's going on in the area, that things are selling, really quickly. So, and you want to buy something that has good bones. Flippers are not builders, so they just want to fix up the house. They don't want to rebuild the house. So really just knowing that it has good solid bones and good potential for improvements or adding to unfinished space, just things that they can do that are quick and will not take 6 months to work on. And right now, according to the Realty Track stats, last year in the area in King County, there was over 1,500 flipped homes, and I would expect that there will be more of those coming in 2017.
That is crazy. And I as you're talking location, I'm thinking with flip too, you can really strategize in that location, because at some point in time the market is going to adjust, obviously. That's without saying. And in the near future, none of us see that, but still you want to be cautious in the flipping if you're buying in the location, the greater areas that are going to be later in seeing a market turn.
Right.
So Debbie, what about somebody that's thinking of investing in a flip property? What do they need to do to get started in this process?
Well, I think very first thing they should do is align themselves with a really good broker.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's key. And find a broker that really knows the area that you want to be in, and that you're comfortable in a price point that you are comfortable in, and someone that's willing to go out and kind of roll up their sleeves. There are some good deals out there that are on the open market, but a lot of times, myself and Vivian, we go out and we door knock. We do old-fashioned door knock, and we pick up properties that way, and we target certain ones that we think, just from the outside, looks like it could be a great fixer.
Might be a good thing,
and we know what the exit price would be in that neighborhood, and we go after it. And we
when you're talking about experienced agents, then it's important that you're working with somebody that understands that process of flipping, because everything that you're saying there is, dynamic to understanding that process.
Right. And as a broker, if you've been doing this for a little while, and I've done some flips myself, I can walk through a house usually and kind of estimate how much it will cost. I'm not a contractor, then I would, but I have a good idea maybe, so I know if it's even something worth bringing an investor to look at. Because there's many properties that we would just say, no, there's not enough profit in this, or it needs too much work, or there's something wrong with it, and we won't even bother with it.
Makes sense. So, Vivian, when you're thinking about flipping, what would you say on an average is the time frame of fixing up that home and being able to get it back on the market and selling it?
Well, Tina, in a perfect world, I would say about 60 days and 90 days max. The goal is to have it fixed up and back on the market in that time frame. The longer it takes, the more it's costing in carrying costs, and markets can change quickly.
Yeah, so you want to strategize again, and why it's important to work with an experienced broker that understands how this process goes, because the timing is important, and making sure you've got all of those things lined up in the appropriate time associated to get it closed in that 60, 90 days. So, Debbie, what items do investors need to consider when buying a property to flip?
Well, I think first they need to really know what the exit price is.
Okay.
When, as the house, finished product. And then from there, kind of work backwards on what will it cost to do the improvements. And they really need to know their numbers. If they are not an expert, they should be bringing a licensed contractor in and having them give them a really good idea of what it will cost. And they really need to be prepared for surprises. Because when you start opening up walls and uncovering things, there's usually at least one or two, sometimes very costly surprises. And the other thing that I think a lot of investors forget about is the carrying costs. So if you are borrowing hard money because you don't have your own cash, you better remember to take that into account every month, every day. Taxes, carrying, insurance that you still have to carry on the property, your selling costs, 8.5%, 9% selling costs. There's all those little things that people forget about that. And then really in the end, talking about taxes earlier, I think investors forget that there is some tax at the end.
Yes. So just having that plan of financially breaking it all out, making sure that you have that buffer for any unexpected things, what your carry cost is, and then your exit, what's it going to cost in that exit piece for the taxes. Great advice. Vivian, what amount of net profit do investors expect or hope to make?
Right now, they're making about 30%, most of them.
Okay.
In Seattle. But I would say about 20 to 30%.
Okay, so after everything is completed, the cost and the taxes and everything, being able to walk away with 20-30%, not a bad deal if you're able to walk away with that. And again, that's why the importance of the experience is important, so that you can make sure that you're maximizing that profit. So, Debbie, what is the biggest mistake investors make when buying a flip home? The wrong one?
There has been a few of those. I've had someone buy a house once and they didn't see the inside because it was at an auction, and when they got into the property, the sewer had backed up and the basement was completely full.
Oh my.
So you never know what you might get sometimes, especially if it's not a house on market and if you haven't had a chance to inspect it. That's usually not the case. But I think really the biggest mistake is thinking it's like the TV shows.
Yes.
And it's really not. It is a lot of hard work. You really need to do your homework. You need to know what you're doing, and you need to have a great team of licensed contractors that you can rely on. I think that's just really, really important right now. And then just really knowing your costs, being able to calculate the bottom line, what is, and allowing for mistakes or things to happen.
So are you guys still picking properties up at auction? Are those that
I do occasionally, but they usually get bid up so high that they are just not a good buy.
So majority of your buyers, you're finding their opportunities by what you said, just old-fashioned creating the opportunity by knocking on sellers' doors that it might look like it's somebody that would be interested in doing that.
Yeah, and I think in this market right now with the prices for the Seattle area, when you are spending $500,000 maybe, four to 500 for a fixer house, you really better know what you're doing and have your numbers.
That is crazy. Vivian?
Oh, I was just going to say that I'm finding a lot of houses on, the Northwest MLS too.
Okay. And so how difficult is it, Vivian, in finding these opportunities for your clients that want to flip?
They come around. I saw one today that was interesting. Mm-hmm. And if they have all cash, you can write a good offer.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the houses around, and then like all the new ones that have built that are selling for, 3 times or 4 times more than that, then I show them that, and then they can figure out the math.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about flipping, it's probably just being with the long haul and knowing that it may take some time to find that perfect house, but stick with it and make sure that you're being careful on the one that you're choosing and not trying to rush it and making those big mistakes. Debbie, how do you advise buyers in this market to win in multiple offers? Just traditional or your flippers?
Well, obviously it's competitive, so having cash,
cash is king,
and having everything, doing pre-inspections. For flippers, they usually do their own because they know they're going to tear it apart, so it's not as critical. But just really, I also tell buyers, if they're traditional buyers, you should be looking at price points 10 to 20% maybe under what you can qualify for, because you're going to be very disappointed when you continually lose out on offers because you're looking at your maximum price point and you can't compete because you can't escalate over the asking price. So buyers get very burnt out and they get really tired of losing out on. It's discouraging for them.
Yeah, great advice. Well, there's opportunities out there to buy, whether you're buying your first home, you're doing a move up, had some creative options during a money chat for investors that plan on holding and renting it. And we've heard about flipping. There's opportunities out there for flipping as well. So thank you guys so much for coming into studio and having a conversation with me about flipping real estate.
Thank you for having us. This was fun.
We'll have to have you come back. This is your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, signing off for the day. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great Saturday, great Sunday. I'll be here next weekend, same time, same place, right here at 11:50 a.m. KKNW.
Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Gateway Mortgage Group, LLC. The views expressed by the speakers on the preceding program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Gateway Mortgage Group, LLC, nor are they necessarily endorsed by Gateway Mortgage.